Hello and welcome back to the Silver Story Speedrun tutorial. In this video, I'll be going over movement techniques that are a bit more advanced than I've covered in previous videos. These techniques are very useful to learn and are especially critical to the second half of the No Credits Work run, which will be the scope of this playlist. A thing to note about everything I'm about to describe, most of it is not possible from your vanilla 100% file. Because what you get as a required upgrade that we always skip in the speedrun is the shock bracelet. The shock bracelet, if you hold X while in the air, you go straight down and do an AoE stun. That is very useful for casual play and is required, if you don't know how to skip it, to progress the story. However, it makes a great deal of these advanced techniques impossible to do, if not potentially very difficult, because they all involve preserving your air momentum and making sure you stay higher for longer. And that's not quite what shock bracelet does. It kills all your horizontal speed and makes you go straight down. So that's the disclaimer. No shock bracelet. It is used nowhere in the run, even after it is required. So the first thing I want to cover is called the LE, or the levitation extension. The levitation extensions are a combination of the property that holding X while airborne locks your speed, and the fact that hovering gives you extra speed while in the air. So what you do is hold A, release A, and immediately switch to X.
I'm not going to let the Iblis trigger get away!
So I'm gonna hover and notice I fall about that fast. If I do a successful
I'm not going to let the Iblis trigger get away!
I not only regain gauge, but look how much farther I'm going. That means you hit the correct button. Now do not you release A and immediately hold X. Now, just because I said frame perfect does not mean this is necessarily inconsistent or impossible. You can do it. Do not give up trying to do these because I said the words frame perfect. Ooh, spooky. Nah, you got this. I believe. However, it's really useful in clutch situations, so just kind of get used to doing them, because they give you gauge back while airborne while maintaining the forward velocity of whatever you started with your hover.
This conveyor belt changes direction. I better be careful.
So how do you know if you're doing a levitation extension correctly? Because the difference is kind of minimal between a missed one and a hit one. So here are some tells.
I'm not going to let the Iblis trigger get away!
You're going to be holding X too early. I'll exaggerate it there. You release the X button and nothing happens. You're not going to get speed on either side of the fence. So if you hold X too early, like while you're still holding A, rather, you're going to not get any speed, but when you release the X button, you're not going to do your stun slap.
I'm not going to let the Iblis trigger get away!
Now, if you hold X too late, like I did there was like a noticeable break between the hover and the stun slap. You will regain gauge after a short delay, but you won't get any of the boost that the hover initially gave you. You'll just fall like you would if you just stopped hovering. However, this does have the side effect of you regaining gauge. So if you can't quite levitation extension consistently, this is a decent alternative if you have to clear a gap that causes you to lose a lot of height, but also needs a fair bit of distance. So you can like...
I'm not going to let the Iblis trigger get away!
That third one I actually did correctly on accident. And you'll kind of feel it as well when you're doing it. That you'll notice Silver going faster. This is probably the only advanced technique I'm going to show that's useful for any percent. The other two involve my favorite upgrade that Silver gets, and also only upgrade that Silver gets in the run, the Heart of Wind. So there are two major techniques to make you go faster the Heart of Wind. The reason why we get it in the first place is because it makes you go absurdly fast. But it has a caveat. The caveat is, you press A twice, you do a teleport dash.
I'm not
So about
going
the
to
teleport
let
dash,
the Iblis trigger get away!
you run kind of low. You actually have quite a bit of time to space the A presses out. Like that. As opposed to doing it a bit lower to the ground. And that kind of leads to the first advanced technique, or telesliding. Telesliding is if you press A twice within, I think, a 3 or 4 frame window, really fast, rather, you get this. Notice I am holding nothing on the control stick after I press A twice. So I'm going to start all the way back here and show you why we don't hold the control stick. So that got me all the way over here. If you hold the control stick in any direction, you reinforce the run speed cap that Silver has at like 9. Whereas the deceleration, you're above 9 for quite a bit. So you don't want to go this fast, you want to go this fast. Teleslide. Now, one thing I will say about telesliding is that it's kind of hard to do with just your thumb. Although it is very possible, that's how I used to do it for a very long time, I would recommend double tapping. And this is the part of the video where I wish I had a hand cam, but I don't. So what you want to do is you press the A button with your index finger, then slide it off, and then press the A button with your pointer finger and slide it off. This is all with your palm facing downwards. It kind of feels like just naturally drumming your fingers on a table or desk. And you want to aim for the edge of the button, generally. You're doing it too fast, which is entirely possible. You're just going to get a jump. So you have to slow down at least a little bit. This is a very consistent movement technique, but it only covers ground. It doesn't cover the air. But that's what extended teleport dashes are for. This is also something that is impossible with the shock bracelet. At least the super extended teleport dash, where you hold the button instead of tapping it. So what this is if you remember levitation extensions, we held A on the last frame we were hovering, we held X on the last frame we were hovering, and we got all the hover speed transferred for as long as we were holding X. We could do the same thing with the teleport dash, which makes you go insanely fast and insanely far. Like this. That is a super extended teleport dash. Now, the tells for levitation extensions and extended teleport dash, super just refers to you holding the button instead of just tapping it. For the same, yes, the same tells.
I'm not going to let the Iblis trigger get away.
If you teleport dash, but then you let go of X and you see the slap, you are late.
I'm not going to let the Iblis trigger get away.
That was on time.
I'm not going to let the Iblis trigger get away.
If you don't see anything at all, you're early. So use this to kind of establish a rhythm. It is exactly, you want to space the second A press and the X press about 10 frames apart. I think that was the number. So what I would recommend is just try it out in the hub world, like wherever you are, like New City, Castletown, Forest. Forest is great for this. And just keep at it. A audio guide would be a metronome at 360 beats per minute. What helped me is listening to songs at a particular song at which is clocked in at 180. So, which is half of 360. So that helped me personally. However, not quite for everyone. And sometimes you want to change up the timing of the first to the second A press, which doesn't matter at all for the extension. Now you can do one that's very high off the ground to be safe and get yourself a little more height before you actually do the extended teleport dash, like I just did there. Because again, teleport dashing is pretty lenient as far as how fast you can press A. You don't have to press it all too fast in order to get a teleport dash, period. But the things you can do with it are really cool. One last thing that I'll cover is something called pause buffer teleslides. These will automatically lose you time, but they are guaranteed to work, and they are inhumanly fast. As in, if you don't do this with a pause, you can't do it as fast at all. So pausing in 06 has this weird quirk where if you press an input of any button and start on the same frame, you will get it twice. Once when you pause, and once on the frame after when you unpause.
I'm not going to let the Iblis trigger get away.
I'm going to press A and start. That was an early pause because you see I haven't moved at all. This is good. The reason I know this is good is because Silver moved, but he didn't say anything. So when I unpause, I'm just going to hold absolutely nothing. And you get to tell us. This puts 2A presses, as opposed to releases, on consecutive frames, where normally with full speedrunning gameplay, you need a press and then a release in order to press the button again. This is very useful in some situations where you need a teleslide to come out or else something very bad will happen. Like at the end of Flame Core, there is a door at the other side of a pretty big room with lava at its entrance, and people usually pause buffer that teleslide, even though it loses them time, because it always works. You can tell when you mess it up, and you can recover even if you pause late, like this. I'm pausing early. There you go. See, when you pause early, the time doesn't really advance all too much. So when you're abusing iframes, like you would in Flamecore, you're not really advancing the timer all too much by pausing early. So early is better than late. However, use this technique sparingly. This does lose you about 1.5 seconds per pause. And it is still, for general movement, very consistent to just unbuffered teleslide with an overhand technique that I've explained before. So yes, that's the last bit I wanted to cover. Thank you all for watching, and I hope these explanations helped out your quest in order to try this speedrun out. Again, as I said with the levitation extensions and the extended teleport dashes, do not give up. This is learnable. A lot of people do it. Just because a lot of people make it look easy doesn't mean it can't be easy for you. So this does require a lot of practice, but it's really fun. After all, who's gonna say no to this? Whee! Oh yeah, I guess so as well.